Hi everyone, you are watching the Chrissy B Show, and our aim here is to help look after your mental health and well-being. On a recent show, we spoke about how crippling fear can be and gave you tips on how to combat it and prevent it from affecting your progress in life. Another related subject that can cause mental health issues is uncertainty. For some, not knowing what the future holds or even just being doubtful about a decision can be very stressful. Today we're going to be giving you tips on how to avoid getting anxious in uncertain times. And of course, a major event that is causing uncertainty and anxiety for many is Brexit, which we'll also be talking about today. And actually, this is a subject that we took to the streets to get your opinion. Let's take a look.
Hi guys, I'm Dipali Limbacha and I'm back on the streets to hear what you guys think of the EU referendum. Let's see what you guys think. So did you vote in the EU referendum?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so what did you vote for, if you don't mind me asking?
I voted Remain.
I voted to stay in the EU.
To stay.
I voted that we exit. Because I think it's a really good thing for the country. I think we need to stand on our own 2 feet. We did before and we will do again.
Okay, so what made you vote Remain?
Quite a lot of things, but I think for me mainly, I've just graduated from uni, but I know a lot of friends have just done placement years in European countries, and for me a big thing is that obviously now we're out of the EU, placement years are going to be a lot harder to get. I personally didn't do a placement year, but a lot of my friends have done them and said how great they were and how much of an experience they were. So yeah, that was a big thing, and also I think we're all better together rather than individual.
Okay, so how do you think it affected you in your daily life?
Well, the vote to leave has been quite devastating for me, really. I mean, sort of economically, I don't think it's good for us, at least not right now. I think maybe it could have been an option if we hadn't just come out of a recession, but the fact that we've only just come out and now we might be going back in again is pretty horrible for, a young person like me that's looking for work. It's hard.
Well, I'm not concerned, to be honest. I think that most of the people, they want to stay, but maybe they are afraid.
So what did you didn't vote, you didn't choose to vote, did you?
No, I didn't choose to vote.
Okay, so what made you not vote?
Because I was and ahhing with so many things that everyone was saying. I was like, well, I agree with that and I agree with this. And in the end, I was like, I don't want to make this decision because it's just quite a big one.
So yeah, I'm sure you're sticking to a decision to vote Remain.
Yeah, definitely. I signed the petition as well, to even though that didn't really come about. Not that I expected it to, but I felt like I had to get my voice out again after having voted so strongly Remain, and so many young people did vote Remain as well. That's the thing that's kind of annoying, is that, I don't mean to have a go at the older generation because I respect them a lot, but at the same time it's kind of, they've taken away our future.
So I'm thinking you're not regretting your decision? Are you?
Definitely not, definitely not.
Fair enough. Is there anything else you'd like to add as well?
No, I think our country will go forward, it'll be stronger, and if we all pull together, I think we'll be a very good country in the end of it all.
Thank you very much, Dipali, for those opinions from the public. So now, guys, I'd like to tell you about our guests for today. We have our resident psychologist, Dr Audrey Tang, who'll be talking about why people get so anxious when it comes to the future and how to cope better and actually see the positive side to not knowing what the future holds. We also have Doctor's Orders with Rob Hicks, a recipe with Danielle Shine, and a fitness tip with Ben Cooper, because taking care of our health will increase the chances of avoiding health problems in the future, but also helps us better manage changes and uncertain times. And later we'll take a look at some advice from successful CEO James Lafferty, who believes that if we don't take risks, we're unlikely to succeed. And I'll be sharing some tips from the Mental Health Foundation, key steps we can take to manage anxiety due to Brexit. But now it's time for the news with Helena Shard. Welcome to the show, Helena.
Thank you, Chrissy. So Brexit,
yes.
Everyone's talking about Brexit,
yes,
every minute of the day on the news. So on the 24th of June, I remember waking up and thinking, oh my goodness, looking at my phone and seeing the news. And it's one of those, I think everyone will remember that time when you look and you think, oh my goodness, I really didn't think it was going to be Brexit. But anyway, so the build up to the referendum was also massive. And I think everyone was completely revved up, whether in or out. Everyone wanted to have their say, which I think was really important. And even the royal family considered a dramatic Brexit, which is really unusual, because obviously they don't talk politics, but they wanted to express their upset, which is unusual. The thing I think is obviously politicians, this is me giving my own thought, and I think lots of people think the same thing, they're very interested in their jobs and not losing their jobs. And I think lots of people were fed information, which is a little bit naughty, and I would imagine that people decided based on those things. So very, very naughty. And I think that really they should be answerable to it, especially information about the NHS. We were told that any money that was sent to EU would be put into the National Health, and of course now it's not going to be, which is naughty. And I think it was quite interesting. There was a Green Party had a commercial, I don't know whether you saw it, and it had all the politicians in it, but as little children, and it showed them just really playing at being politicians, and it was very clever and quite apt, so quite interesting. Also, Piers Morgan said something which is interesting. I don't particularly like Piers Morgan, I have to say, but he said Cameron called for a referendum, he didn't need to. He says the decision to leave shows why Donald Trump has a good chance of winning the presidency. People are fed up with conventional politicians. Pollsters knew nothing, the city knew nothing, bookies knew nothing, nobody knew anything. And actually there is a little bit of that going on at the moment, because everyone wants to say, you know, this is happening, this is going to happen, and then a few seconds later things have changed. So we're in this change, you know. So quite interesting still. So so the documentary, the advert I was talking about, it's a reminiscence of the secret life of 5-year-olds. It's quite interesting, you have to see it, which is quite fun. So while post-Brexit mood of Britain has been dampened by the falling pound, at the same time it has sort of, I think, lifted a little bit. People are worried now that the other member states are going to be edging out of Europe, which is one of those things, quite possibly. And one big thing is no one can accurately predict what is going to happen. And obviously we're not exiting if we exit for another 2 years. And that's another thing, because people are like, oh goodness. Let's just see. So let's just see. So it's a climate of uncertainty, and we have to plan. So there's a lot of disconnect and people are disillusioned. But trade deals with other countries is the way forward. And I personally think that the golden trio, who is Kate, William and Harry, along with Boris, will probably travel the world and schmooze, and quite possibly, fingers crossed, there'll be good deals made. Moving on to celebrities express at the shock of the decision, just a few little snippets. So Richard Branson, very sad, will do huge damage to Britain's prosperity and Europe's stability, but the UK's amazing people will get through it with unity, resolve and decency. James Corden, when he was doing the Late Late Show, he was completely shocked and said he felt so sorry for the youth of Britain who won't experience the benefits of the country's EU membership. Edward Snowden, he mentioned how he couldn't get his head around what was happening. No matter the outcome, polls demonstrate how quickly half of any population can be convinced to vote against itself. Quite a lesson. I think it's how people can think one thing and all of a sudden jump to the other side. Katie Hopkins, she is a character, as we know. She was like, absolutely fantastic, this is the best news ever. A new dawn, brilliant, brave, Great Britain. Swedish Prime Minister, ex-Swedish Prime Minister Carl Bildt, a lot of people have been sort of joking really about us as well. I see even the Zimbabwe currency is now gaining ground against the pound, the UK pound. So people were having little digs. Moving on to people worried about hate crimes. This is a big thing at the moment. So crackdown on hate crime after Brexit. So perpetrators to be given tougher sentences, and absolutely, so they should be. So the Home Secretary, Amber Rudd, obviously has said there's been a huge spike in hate crime, not crime. And HMIC, Her Majesty's Inspectorate, they're going to actually talk to the police, and it's to do with coping skills, just to see how they coped with it all, which is brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Just so it will give confidence to people. And also I think 2.4 million is going to be put in for security measures at places of worship. 300,000 to establish 3 projects to explore innovative new ways of tackling hate crime. And a really lovely story, well I say lovely, it's not a lovely story, it's a sad story, but the reminisce of quite a few people would say similar things have happened to them. A BBC presenter, fellow BBC presenter Trish Adudu, was racially abused on the street, and she was left shocked and in tears. She's lived in the UK country all her life, in Coventry in fact, proud to be British, couldn't be more British, and just one individual who was obviously hate-filled, verbally attacked her with nasty, vile language, telling her to go home. And she, I mean, it's an incredible interview. It's very short, but it's very, very gripping and moving, something to see. And she actually wasn't going to report it, and it's her social network field said, you have to, and she did, and the police were absolutely brilliant. So, yeah, said they were so good, so that's good. There's More United, which is a new group set up, I think by Paddy Ashdown, which is actually very good, and it's for people who feel let down by the political system. It's inspired by a speech given by Jo Cox, the MP, and they believe in hope, unity, you know, rejecting hatred and division, but it's a good setup. Individuals also trying to help, which is great. Sarah Childs recently set up a Facebook page called Worrying Times, and she put together lots of situations which were not good, and it creates impact. It's the referendum kicked up a problem, and we all need to be aware of it, so good for her. Good. And people are feeling sort of doom and gloom, manufacturers are feeling it, but there's a sort of negative, but at the same time, like Glaxo, they've been reinvesting more money, which is good. But certain people have been feeling, this is on a France 24 network, uncertainty, sadness, insomnia, frustration, confusion. I mean, there's so many different things going on. Going on to one funny thing, a devoted fan of James. Well, actually, I'm going to nearly. A devoted fan has written an inspirational song for Jeremy Corbyn. His, you know, her number one fan, his number one fan, should I say, which is great, which has been released on YouTube. And I've got a lovely story that I want to end on, Emotional Ties, and it's really amazing. It's about a man who saved Kieran Sheikh, who's now 22. She was abandoned when she was just 2 hours old in a telephone box. And a lovely man, Joe Campbell, found her and thought she was a bag of chips because she was so tiny. Anyway, she couldn't adopt he couldn't adopt her, sorry, because he wasn't married, which is sad, but sent presents and cards for 5 years until the social services said he couldn't do that any longer. He was sad and always wanted to meet up with her again. So great when she tried to find him, and they've just found each other. And as she said, her hero, which is lovely, isn't it? So beautiful lovely to end on that.
Thank you for that, Helena.
That's quite all right, Chrissy.
Thank you. We'll see you again next time. Thank you. All right, so after the break, we have a doctor's orders with Rob Hicks talking about ways to avoid heart disease, and I'll also be speaking to our resident psychologist, Dr Audrey Tang. Welcome back to today's programme, everyone, which we have titled Brexit, Uncertain Times and Your Mental Health. So we're going to be speaking about Brexit after the break, but first of all, we're going to be speaking about how to deal with uncertainty, because when the future isn't certain, for some people, this is a really big deal and it causes a lot of stress and anxiety. So to discuss this with me, we have Dr Audrey Tang. Hello, Audrey.
Hello, Chrissy. Thank you for having me.
It's lovely to have you back.
Love being here.
So we have I've got a few questions for you here, which I'd like to get your take on, because there are many things that do make people feel uncertain. But what would you say the main ones are?
Well, Holmes and Rahe a long time ago actually created something called a life stress scale, and right at the top was moving house, getting divorced, having a baby, and all of those things can lead to uncertainty because you've never had that experience before sometimes. But also the problem is with that life scale, a lot of those things can happen at the same time, which can actually make things worse. So even if it's a positive change, so you're moving house because you've had a new baby, or you're moving house because you've got married, all of those things together can suddenly be quite stressful and quite scary. On top of which, you may not have your social support network either. And I think when we're talking about uncertainty, it's nice to almost have something that you can predict in your life, even if it's just a person, a family member, a pet, anything. But if you don't have that, or it's taken away because you've gone to university or because you've moved areas, it can be very difficult.
Okay. And also I wanted to ask sort of the difference between people because, for example, I'm the kind of person that I find it quite exciting when I don't know what's around the corner.
Yeah.
Although short term, for example, I like to know what's happening next week or tomorrow. I don't feel good if I don't know what's going on and what I'm going to be doing because I'm very organised. But talking more long term, sort of maybe even 2, 3, 4 years, I'm quite excited. I don't need to know exactly what's going to happen or if there's a big change. I quite look forward to things like that.
Yeah.
But then I know there's other people that they need their like whole lives mapped out for them, and if they don't know exactly what they're doing maybe in 10 years time, or that they want to know where they're going to be living, they want to know all sorts of things, and they get really stressed out if they don't know. And when some major change comes, it kind of devastates them. So what's the difference? What is it? Is there something that you could do about the way you think? And
it's a difficult one because it can be just how our brains are wired, but it can also be down to experience. There's been some horrible, horrible stories that I've seen where parents left home whilst the child's been at school. And that thought of coming home and your whole life has changed. It's no wonder that later on when you form a relationship, you want to predict what's going on. Is that person going to be there when I get back? So that can lead to controlling behaviour, and that can lead to you needing to know where everyone is at any one time. So it can be an experience. You also have, as you say, free spirits, people who just enjoy, well, some people more negatively call them lack of commitment or commitment phobes. But for me, I think it's down to being able to cope, and that understanding that you have that basic resilience in you that, okay, something different can happen, but I will survive. I will get through this. And again, that's laid down in childhood. That's what we're taught. If a parent teaches a child, well done for trying, and not just A for effort, which is a little bit of a platitude, but an actual, you were doing this maths puzzle, I saw you struggle with it, but then you decided to read a book, or you got a calculator, or you did something to help you, and then you tried it again. Being specific about the effort, that makes such a difference, because that teaches the child that it's good to try and good to have that sort of ability to cope with a frustration, rather than just saying, oh, well done, you solved that puzzle. Whereas we do have a tendency to praise the result rather than the process. And it's about instilling that the process is important, and therefore laying down the good coping mechanisms from childhood.
And if, for example, that hasn't been done in childhood, what can you do now as an adult if you identify this in you and you think, okay, I need to take a hold of this now? What can we do?
It's sometimes quite difficult to do it for yourself, but because behaviour, we're fluid, we're very dynamic, we can make changes, which is ironic really, because that can be a very good change. We can find what's known as a corrective experience. Somebody who is consistent. It may be a teacher, it may be a counsellor, it may be a boss even, who is there for us, not necessarily parenting us, but is there consistently. If we have a problem, we can go to them for help, but they will facilitate us in finding our own way to solve that problem. So it's sometimes about reaching out to others that can offer us the corrective experience that we're looking for.
Okay. And now I'd like to just ask about decision making, because this is another major thing, because obviously there's some decisions that won't affect us that much, but there's other decisions that are really, really difficult because the person really doesn't know which decision is the right one, or if I make this decision, is it going to just make things worse? Am I going to regret it? So you have all those kind of doubts. How do you sort of deal with that process, and also the consequences, positive or negative?
The whole problem about decisions is you can only make the best decision based on that time and the facts that you have at that particular moment. We can't predict the future, and even what seems to be the best decision in the whole world at that moment could turn out differently through no fault of our own. The best thing is, it's something that Helena said earlier, is to have a plan, not an expectation. Not this kind of, oh, if I do this, this will happen. But, okay, if this is one of the many possibilities that could happen, what am I able to do to deal with it? So having that plan in place is important. The other thing that's also very good is to realise that change or the unexpected isn't necessarily to do with losing something or something negative. We do an exercise in training where we ask people to change 3 things about themselves whilst their partner looks away. And 9 times out of 10, they will take something off. They'll take their glasses off, or they'll take a jacket off, because they associate change with loss. It's just unconscious, but instead of putting something on or moving something, making a sideways move, it's actually that association with loss. So it's changing our perspective a little bit on that. And similarly, there's another exercise we use called the circle of control, well, circle of influence, where you look at all of the things that are troubling you, and then you look at, well, what actually can I influence out of all of those things? If I can influence something, then it's worth my while thinking about that, considering it, doing something about it. If I can't, then actually, but at least this way it's visual and you can see what you can influence and what you can't. And if you find yourself thinking about all of the things on the outside bit of the circle, the things that you cannot influence, then actually it's time to practice some of the other techniques, such as thought stopping, just saying no to yourself.
Okay. I think you've kind of answered my last question that I had, which was about how can people sort of deal with the future more positively, think about the future in a more positive way.
Well, for me, I just sometimes think, well, wouldn't it be terribly boring if we all knew exactly how our life would turn out? Because we're only as good as our own brain or our own imagination. The best discoveries in the world haven't been made because we could predict something. It was because of the unexpected, and that's what makes it exciting. Of course, there are certain things and certain choices that we need to make which follow a pathway, but again, that's where planning comes into it. It doesn't need to be an expectation or a fear of the unknown or the fear of doom. Just if you plan, then you can cope.
Okay. So Audrey, I'm going to keep you with me because we do have something before the break, but we're going to be speaking more about Brexit after the break as well. And just before we go to our break, we've also got a doctor's orders with Rob Hicks, and he's talking about how to prevent heart disease.
Hello and welcome to Doctor's Orders here at the Chrissy B Show. I'm Dr. Rob Hicks. Today we're going to be talking about a condition that tragically kills over 73,000 people every year in the UK. It kills around about 1 in 6 men and around about 1 in 10 women. And that condition is coronary heart disease. It's also known as ischemic heart disease, or very simply, heart disease. Now, if you think about your heart, which is about the size of a fist, being a simple muscle, its job is to pump blood around the body to deliver oxygen and nutrients all around the body where the organs need them. Now, the heart is an organ as well, and so it needs a supply of oxygen and it needs nutrients as well. And it gets these through arteries called the coronary arteries. That's where the term coronary heart disease comes from. Now, if the blood flow to the heart is reduced or indeed blocked off, then that's where problems occur. If it's reduced, then you get symptoms in the chest called angina chest pain, that feel like a crushing tight band across the chest. If the blood supply to the heart is completely blocked off, then you suffer a heart attack because that part of the heart just isn't getting the oxygen that it needs. So why is it then that this happens? Well, this happens through a process called atherosclerosis, which simply means that the arteries are becoming narrowed, they're becoming furred up, and that's what's blocking the efficient flow of blood. Within the arteries forms a yellow gooey mess called atheroma. It's not unlike the colour of my stethoscope tubes, but it sticks to the artery walls and it narrows them so the blood can't get through efficiently. So what is it that causes this narrowing, these fatty deposits to form in the artery walls? Well, certainly being overweight increases the risk, smoking increases the risk, having high cholesterol increases the risk. High blood pressure and diabetes also increase the risk of damage to the arteries, so that problems are likely to arise. So how do you go about trying to prevent this from happening? Well, you get rid of the risk factors. If you're overweight, a healthy diet, cutting down the calories, doing lots of exercise should help bring you down to a healthy weight. If you smoke, you don't need me to tell you this, it's the best idea is to quit, to pack it in. And get yourself checked for high blood pressure, high cholesterol and diabetes, because if you should have any of these conditions, they can be treated. And when they're managed, the risk of damage to the arteries and the complications that come with that can be reduced. If somebody already has heart disease, then certainly the lifestyle measures are still very, very important. They will also be offered medication. So medication to reduce the risk of clots, medication to improve the function of the heart, and medication to manage high cholesterol, high blood pressure and diabetes. They may also be recommended to have a surgical procedure. This might be something called angioplasty, where a balloon essentially is put inside the narrowed artery. It's inflated to widen that artery so the blood can flow through more easily. Or they may actually have heart surgery to bypass a blockage called CABG, coronary artery bypass grafting. Now, if you would like to know whether you are at risk of heart disease or what your risk is, or you already have heart disease and you want to get some more information, then please do have a word with your own doctor and seek their advice. And that's Doctor's Orders.
Thank you very much, Rob. And after the break, we have more from Audrey Tang, a fitness tip with Ben Cooper, and also we have the 5 qualities you need to succeed with CEO James Lafferty, who believes that if you don't take risks, you're going to be very unlikely to get anywhere in life. Chrissy B, and my show is all about improving your mental health and being happy. Join me every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. on my channel Sky 203. Visit chrissybshow.tv for more information and subscribe to our YouTube channel Chrissy B Show. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chrissy B Show and on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Welcome back, everyone, and we are talking Brexit, uncertain times and your mental health. So I still have Audrey with me here, Dr. Audrey Tang, who's our resident psychologist, and we've been talking about how to deal with uncertainty and why people, there's some people that fear the future, there's others that quite look forward to it, different things that we talked about there. And we're going to be speaking about Brexit in just a moment, but first let's go to Ben Cooper with this fitness tip.
Hi and welcome to Move 360 Studios. My name is Ben. We're here with the Chrissy B Show. And today is all about feeling good. So I'm going to get as many muscles working in the body as possible. So the whole body feels good. It feels like it's had a great workout and you end up feeling better. First exercise we're going to do, we just need a couple of dumbbells. If you haven't got dumbbells, just use some books, some cans, anything you've got at home. Just hold them in front of you. We're going to squat down and come up. Squat down and come up. Holding the dumbbells this way keeps your back nice and upright, and you get to work your biceps and your upper back at the same time as you're squatting. And you want to do about 10 to 12 reps of those squats. Then with your same dumbbells, we're going to go into a shoulder width stance, bend at the hips, nice straight back, and then pull through with the arms. So like a scarecrow, just a few teaching points, just let the arms hang down and then you're pulling back from the elbows. If you don't have weights, you can just hold yourself like this with the arms out and hold for about a minute. That'll be quite tough because that'll really work the extensors in the back. Okay. And now we're going to go on to our push-ups, which are down onto the mat. So you're just going to use your body weight. A few teaching points on how to do a proper push-up. Make sure your chin stays in. So watch me when you do it, and then I'll explain it again. So down, chin comes in. So a lot of people try and get their head down to the ground, which pulls you into very bad posture. So the chin comes forward. Make sure it's the chest that's going to the floor. And the elbows can stay about 45 degrees from the shoulder and pushing up from there. So watch me again on that. Okay, and then you should have a really good push-up that works your abs, your chest, your arms, pretty much your whole body along with the rest of the exercise. If you struggle to do a full push-up, you can do a slightly easier version, which you stay on your knees, so cross your feet at the back, but make sure again the same principles, the chin stays in, chest to the floor, and back up. Okay, you don't want to do it like this, that's not a push-up. We're going to go here, hips come forward, chest comes down, chin stays in. That way we still work the abdominals, otherwise they just get left behind and no one wants to leave their abdominals behind. So talking of abs, we're going to go on to a more specific abdominal exercise. I call this navel radiation. The belly button is the navel, so we're going to radiate around it to work the abdominal wall. So lying down on your mat, spread out like a starfish, and then you're going to come up to the middle and then control back up. Okay, and open the arms and legs back where they were. Come up again and control down. So when you're doing that one, try and keep your tongue to the roof of your mouth. That helps to use the right muscles in your neck. And try and breathe out as you come up and breathe in as you go back. And you'll really feel that start to work those abdominal muscles. And it's a great complement after the muscles we've already worked, so the whole body has got to work out in those 4 exercises.
Thank you very much to Ben. So let's now go back to Audrey. So obviously we heard in the news that, you know, a lot of uncertainty going on. We have also watched the street chats there. So what's your take on everything? Why are people getting so anxious? The ones that, you know, voted to stay and now we're out.
The ones who voted to stay are almost going through the stages of grief. They are going through the denial that it's happened, the bargaining, the young lady who was speaking has signed the petition, which of course, you know, it has now been disregarded. There's a lot of anger in there as well. And I can understand what she's saying in the sense of, oh, everyone I spoke to wanted to vote Remain, therefore why has this happened? But I think the sad part is, for whatever reason, and whether it was a protest vote or not, and of course a referendum is not the appropriate place to make a protest vote, but it is showing how divided the United Kingdom actually has become. And we need to use that awareness and do something about that. That's very important. Somewhere along the line, we've lost touch with each other, and that's important to address.
Okay, and what about the other almost half of the nation that voted to leave? They've got their wish.
There's fear there as well, because there doesn't appear to be a clear plan. But then let's not forget, it hasn't been that long ago that the vote was made, and also it's going to take 2 years to put anything in place, which sounds like a long time, but when you're talking about a major change for a country, it's not that long at all. And really, it's quite important, I think, that we get our ducks in a row and have that plan before we trigger Article 50. But I think what's difficult is with looking at who voted Remain, who voted Exit, it depends very much on who you are. I was reading an article in the Psychologist magazine the other day, and the psychologist was saying, all of my friends voted Remain, and therefore I don't understand why we've left. And it's kind of, well, that's because you're more likely to hang around with the people who are going to think like you. It is just as simple as that. What we need to do is just really open our minds and say, why did so many people vote the other way? What is going on that we need to actually deal with? But also, if you are feeling angry, upset because you will vote at Remain, and of course we're exiting now, then you're allowed to have those feelings. You're allowed to be angry, and people who voted Leave and got their way shouldn't kind of suppress those feelings, because you are allowed to feel saddened or betrayed. It's a natural part of the healing process.
Yeah. And of course we also have the people that didn't even vote at all. Maybe, you know, I know some people travelled or whatever, but you could have voted by post.
You could have.
But like that lady on the street chats again, she didn't know which way to go, and then, you know, it's such a major decision, I don't even want to go there.
The whole problem with politics is that we don't necessarily always know who's telling the truth or what the truth is, and that's where the problem comes in. And I can understand someone just almost saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I will just go with what's happening. In a way, she will find acceptance and moving forward easier than somebody who voted to Remain. The other thing that's important to remember when it comes to decision making is that reasoning is not necessarily what causes us to make a decision. It can be something that causes us to justify a decision. And those two are very different things. You can reason by looking at all the facts and then saying, I'm going to choose A instead of B because I've looked at the facts and I'm choosing A. Or you can say, I really like A, I've got no particularly justification for that, but I'm going to choose A, and then I'm going to think up all the reasons why I've gone for that. And that's where I think a lot of the hurt and anger and so on can come in with Brexit, because you've got the supporters on the Remain side saying, well, we had all the facts there, we had all the arguments. Leave is also saying we had facts, we had arguments, but the reality is, if you have a strong feeling to remain or a strong feeling to leave, you can then justify your choices, and it's the same skill that you're using. And so I think sometimes it's just worth being aware of that perspective as well.
And that actually, you can actually translate that across everything in your life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Are you doing something because you've made a choice by looking at all the facts, or are you making your choice and then saying, no, I'm going to justify it in that way?
Very handy. Audrey, thank you so much for your opinions again. That was great. And we'll see you again very soon.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys, so just before the break, we now have a video, an interview with Jim Lafferty on 5 qualities that you need to succeed.
What would you say to somebody like a young person or anybody maybe who's having to change a career and they really wanted to have a successful career and climb the ladder? What would you say to them that maybe the 5 most qualities that they really need to have if they were serious about becoming very successful in what they wanted to do?
The first one would be courage. They need to take risks in their career, especially young people. They need to gamble a bit, and they need to go for it. When you have children and you have a spouse and you have house payments, you know, you lose your ability to be flexible. When you're young like Morgan and you just have a house, you're just renting an apartment, and you know, you don't have a car, you don't have a husband, you have kids, you're flexible. Take the risks and swing for things. The second thing that you need is coachability. You have to be willing to absorb information and get better. Now, it's funny, the SEALs call this the warrior mindset, which is, are you prepared to get better, or do you think you're already good enough? And it's amazing the number of people who say, look, I'm good enough. I'm not open to any more changes or input in my life. That's a dangerous place to be. You need to be coachable. The third is EQ, or social intelligence. Can you work with other people? Everything's about teamwork. And you know, the selfish people, the people who only think about themselves, who step on other people, who don't basically have an understanding of how humans think and what motivates people, are always going to struggle. In any company I've been in, the people that struggled to get along with others never were successful, no matter how big that brain was, no matter how many hours they worked, they weren't going to make it. The fourth would be leadership. You won't find a company in the world today that has enough leaders. There's a dearth of leadership in every corporation in the world today. Now, everyone says they're a leader, but I'm talking real leadership. You know, doing the right thing, winning over trust. I mean, you know, General Eisenhower said, the essence of leadership is integrity. And, you know, people that are political, that are manipulative, that think they're leaders, they're not. And all of their people know it. This is about people that really take a stand for something. Why does everyone follow Nelson Mandela? Because he did the right thing, even though it was very difficult. That's the essence, you know, that's the essence of leadership. And the final thing would be perseverance, which you're going to have ups and downs. I've had great times in my career. I've had bad times. I've had successful launches, and I've had failures. You got to stick with it. The difference between success and failure is nuances. So it's a very fine line. So you know, it's a one or two things sometimes that makes the difference between it. So, and you know, success all the time is a horrible teacher. You need to fail sometimes. I mean, I always go back and tell people, the best system to learn skiing is from the French. And the French will tell you, if you didn't fall down today, you didn't do it right. You should fall. Because falling means you tried new maneuvers and new degrees of slope and new hills that have made you a better skier. Not, I'm always going to do the easy runs where I don't fall down and I'm comfortable. You make progress when you're uncomfortable. Comfort is an enemy to anybody, because comfort makes us complacent. Comfort makes us just sitting, you know, this is so nice. You got to push yourself, and so that's what's important, is that continual learning and continual improvement and being pushed to do things that you haven't done before.
So you've been having quite a lot of changes in your career, as you're saying, grabbing opportunities, and things have gone in different directions. Would you say that that's still happening now in your career?
Absolutely. You know, I've worked for now different companies in different countries. I just came from living in Nigeria. Why? Because it's the most dynamic African country, and I wanted to go there, even though it for many people is a difficult place. I wanted to try it. I wanted to live it. I met wonderful people. I met a wonderful culture, and I'm glad I did that. Yeah, I mean, the day you stop taking risks is the day you might as well just say, I'm gonna sit back and wait to die. And I'm not doing that. So, every time I've ever interviewed 80-year-old people, they say the same thing. I only regret the risks I didn't take. They will always tell you that. And so I've always listened to that. I've taken every job that I've been asked to take, and I've gone to all the geographies that they asked me to move to. And I looked at everything positively, like this is an opportunity to learn.
James's 5 qualities you need to succeed. First, courage. Second, coachability. Third, social intelligence. Fourth, leadership. And fifth, perseverance.
Thank you very much to James Lafferty. So after the break, I'll be sharing some tips from the Mental Health Foundation, which are key steps we can take to manage anxiety due to Brexit. And we also have a healthy recipe with Danielle Shine. Welcome back, everybody, to our programme about Brexit, uncertain times and your mental health. So if you have missed the beginning of this programme, we did give lots of useful information, especially with our psychologist, Dr Audrey Tang. You can head over to our YouTube channel, Chrissy B Show, in a few days' time and catch the show there. And also don't forget to subscribe because, as I've mentioned on this programme before, our YouTube channel is packed full of things that are great for your mental health and well-being. We have fitness tips, we have great recipes, healthy recipes, we have doctors' tips there. We have a section called Psychology Talk, and we have lots of suggestions for places that you can go out to as well, because going out and doing different things is very, very good for you. So do check it out when you get a chance. Okay, so now, but before I talk about the tips that the Mental Health Foundation have given, let's take a look at this healthy recipe with Danielle Shine, because taking care of what we eat can help us to focus and be more positive in general.
Hi everybody! Did you know pumpkin is one of the best things we can eat to support our bowels to function well? From its seeds to its skin, it offers protein, fibre and nutrients, all wonderful things for our digestive system. I'm going to show you how to make 4 delicious treats using 1 whole pumpkin right now. So come and join me in the kitchen and let's get started.
There's so much you can do with just 1 pumpkin. From main meals to snacks, it's an incredibly versatile whole food filled with healthy minerals, dietary fibre, and monounsaturated fats which support the health of your bowels and heart. To create 4 great foods using 1 whole pumpkin, start by roasting it until it becomes nice and soft. This should take around 1 to 1.5 hours. You'll know when it's ready because it changes in colour, leaks a little liquid, and feels soft when pricked with a knife or fork. Slice it open and leave to cool before peeling the skin off completely and placing it on a lined baking tray to create savoury pumpkin skin chips. I like to leave a little bit of the pumpkin flesh on the skin because it adds to the overall flavour. Sprinkle garlic powder and sea salt over the skins. You can also use your favourite dried herbs or spices to create different flavour combinations. And if you're someone who likes cheese, then be sure to shave a little over the pumpkin skins to create a great gluten-free, healthier alternative to nachos. If using cheese, choose from low-inflammatory kinds like manchego, mozzarella, or my favourite, goat's cheese. Gather all the seeds from the middle of the pumpkin and place them on a lined baking tray. You can include some pumpkin flesh to add extra flavour, or you can just rinse them through a strainer to clean. Spread them out evenly and sprinkle with sea salt and your favourite spices that make for a great snack filled with protein, fibre, zinc and magnesium. To save on time, you can place both the pumpkin skins and seeds in a preheated oven as they both roast quite quickly. For this reason, you'll need to watch them closely to ensure they don't burn. It should only take about 20 to 30 minutes, but every oven is different, so please use your judgment. Once ready, leave the seeds to cool while you enjoy the pumpkin skins that can help fight yeast and other bacterial infections in your body. When the seeds cool, break them up and store them in an airtight container. Used as toppings for soup, a crunchy element in salads, they even pair well with sweet treats like porridge. Pumpkin seeds are great little powerhouses of nutrition. They're also a fantastic, nutty tasting alternative for anyone who has a nut allergy. With the remains of your pumpkin, we'll make 2 more healthy treats. Carefully drain the pumpkin liquid into a small container and set aside for later. Collect the flesh in a separate bowl to begin making a sweet tasting pumpkin soup that takes less than a few minutes to pull together. This recipe is a great one to make in bulk. It freezes really well and is easy to reheat during times when you're busy and have no time to cook. Using a food processor, blender, or immersion blender, combine pumpkin with full-fat coconut milk, one of my favourite sources of lauric acid that helps to fight bad bacteria in your body. You can use any type of milk in this recipe, however the coconut milk does add a great amount of flavour to this soup. Add sea salt together with powdered garlic, which adds to the overall nutritional value of this dish, and finish it off with a tablespoon of raw honey that not only adds to the flavour of this soup, but also helps to alleviate allergies and aid restful sleep. Perfect if you're making this for dinner time. Blend all ingredients until smooth. Start on a low setting, then increase the speed to create a creamy, dreamy dish that tastes so good. If serving straight away, simply pour into a saucepan to warm, or you can also enjoy this cold. If making in bulk, pour excess soup into airtight containers and store in the freezer. Serve to top with your homemade roasted pumpkin seeds and maybe some fresh herbs depending on what you have access to. One more treat left to make, and I think it's time for a healthy, caffeine-free pumpkin spice latte. Forget the stuff you can buy at the store that's filled with sugar and fake flavourings. It's much healthier to make it yourself with a few simple ingredients. Combine pumpkin flesh with your pumpkin juice over a medium heat. If you don't have pumpkin juice, you can also use water. Add coconut milk or milk of your choice, together with a little honey for sweetness and some cinnamon to help stabilise your blood sugar levels and support your immune system. Whisk to combine everything together before increasing the heat to create a fast simmer. Once bubbling appears, you can whisk further or use an immersion blender to combine ingredients really well. I find using an immersion blender helps to create a nice little froth on the top of this latte. Pour into a mug to enjoy straight away, or you can also serve this chilled. Either way, it's a delicious, health-supportive treat that will satisfy your sweet tooth while supporting your entire body. For the full recipe, visit www.chrissybshow.tv. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.
Thank you very much to Danielle. And actually we have a whole playlist on our YouTube channel, Chrissy B Show, with lots of other recipes there that are very healthy and nutritious, but also very delicious. Okay, so now we have some information from the Mental Health Foundation, and these are by the Mental Health Foundation's Director for Communications and Fundraising, Mark Rowland. Now, those who voted to stay in the EU, he was saying, felt shocked and angry because of that sense of control that seems to have been taken away from them. So I have a friend, for example, that was telling me that there were quite a few arguments in her family because some voted to stay and others voted to leave, and they just couldn't agree, and they were still arguing even after everything happened. And also someone in my sister's workplace who's from France said she actually wanted to go back because she didn't feel welcome in the UK. So there is a lot of unrest and a lot of people feeling quite down about the whole situation. Now, Mark is saying that physical symptoms to watch out for include dizziness, dry palate, or sleeplessness, or psychological symptoms such as a sense of impending disaster. And all of these kind of things all need to be managed, and it's important to strengthen your resilience. And he actually gives some suggestions which I'm going to share with you now. So the first one is, and I think Audrey briefly touched on this one, permission to be heard. So everyone has the right to be, to respectfully express what they think and feel, and to be respected in return. So if you try to understand and accept that it's okay for others to have different views, I think it's very important to actually manage any anger that you might be feeling. The second thing that he talks about is to know yourself. So you really need to be aware of what you're feeling and also to identify if there are particular triggers for strong reactions. So consider how you can manage or avoid those triggers in the first place. Something else that he says is really important, to assert control. So if you can actually resist and stop yourself from maybe reacting and responding in an agitated way, and instead you react in a more calm way, this will actually prevent things from getting worse. And you can translate that, you know, you can follow that same advice in so many situations in your life. You know that as soon as you react negatively or shout or get angry, it only makes things worse. Getting angry and shouting never actually resolves a situation. You might have expressed yourself, but then what are the repercussions of that? So always, whatever you have to express, do it in a controlled way, in a calm manner. The next thing that he talks about is to find an outlet. So find something that helps you change that state. So maybe it could be places to relax. Maybe you have a person that you can confide and you can talk to. We've spoken about exercise already and healthy eating, which he also mentioned. So all of these are actually very effective in managing stress. The next thing that Mark talks about is to stay connected. So if you are part of a community, or if you maybe are religious or spiritual, so he's saying that these networks can actually give you a way of staying connected to something bigger and provide maybe that kind of calm, that consolation when you're having difficult times. And also a very important one that I think as well is to turn off each day. So as you know, Brexit especially, all over the news still, and news is available 24 hours a day, and you know, there's so much exposure to negative things that are happening or uncertainty, and this can be very, very stressful. So it is important to stay informed. Of course, we should watch the news, we should be aware of what's going on, but you also have to see, how is this news making me feel? And sometimes we can really overload ourselves. So maybe it's a good idea to actually limit yourself to maybe how many times you check for notifications and check what's going on in the news. Just kind of monitor that. If you find yourself getting stressed when you're watching the news, just turn it off. And know how you're feeling when you're watching certain things or getting certain information. And the next thing he talks about is to get help. So he's saying that it's better to act early if you feel rising levels of stress. Now, there's a range of online resources and apps that are available, plus there's lots of psychological therapies that you can actually go to your doctor to find out more about that. And we also have a section on our website, chrissybshow.tv, of useful organisations that you can also contact. And finally, the last thing that he talks about was to look outwards. So it's not just about us, we also have to keep an eye, you know, on our friends and family who may be struggling. So even if maybe friends or family haven't mentioned much about it, but you see that they're kind of looking a bit low, they're not themselves, just ask them, you know, maybe don't say, you know, what's wrong, just say to them, what do you think about everything that's going on, what do you think about Brexit? Just see maybe if that's the reason why they've kind of changed, or maybe they've mentioned a couple of things. And who knows, they might start talking about it and you can help them. Maybe they haven't spoken to anyone. Maybe they think what they're thinking is silly, and, you know, what's the point of you know, burdening someone else with it? But actually that could do them a lot of good, and you could be preventing something more serious in the future. All right, guys, so those were the 8 points that the Mental Health Foundation shared, and I hope that was useful for you. So we have reached the end of today's program, but don't forget, if you have a story that you would like to share on this program, and it could be about maybe something that you've been through and that you've overcome already, or maybe it's something that you're still going through that, and you're actually in the process of recovery, and you're trying to find ways to beat that problem or manage that problem, then do get in touch with us via the website, chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet us at chrissybshow, or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. And don't forget, if you want to know more about me and how I beat depression and panic attacks and all the other mental health issues that I had, you can visit my website, mylifeafterdepression.com. Till next time, bye for now.
To find him and found him, and so it's a beautiful story. So isn't that lovely?
That's lovely.
Which is great.
What was that? Welcome back, everybody, to today's program, So now we have some information from the Mental Health Foundation, and these are the Mental Health Foundation. To try and control yourself and not lose that. Oh, can I start again? I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm sorry. these networks can be very, very important and can keep you kind of calm, and you know, you have something